Hey, it's me, Kona. We are on a bit of a hiatus right now. We usually do this in December, but this time we didn't. It's going to be January and maybe a little bit of February, but we are still going to try to drop as much content into your feed as possible. It will just not be our normal episodes for a few more weeks. This week, what we've got for you is The Drunk Housewives of True Crime. This is a YouTube show that I guested on along with H. Allegra Lansing and L of Elter Skelter 9529 on YouTube. It is a true crime series in which we talk about cases that we're working on for our various platforms, cases that are in the news, more recent things. And it's just in a very casual setting. So it's a lot different from what we do here. And it covers the gamut. So not just missing persons cases. We talk about all sorts of stuff. In this episode that you're going to hear today, we talked about JonBenet Ramsey, Joyce Meyer Summers, the Christmas tree lady of Annandale, Virginia, and domestic abuse victim Zazelle Preston. We're also going to have some more upcoming collaborations. Our next one is going to be with Misty Mysteries, which is a fantastic podcast that, like us, is a member of the Darkcast Network. So we're looking forward to that, as soon as scheduling allows. And we will be back with regular episodes soon, I promise. Thank you for sticking with us. I really appreciate it. And I will be back to talk to you soon. Enjoy this episode of Drunk Housewives of True Crime.
Welcome back, ladies. It is episode 2 of the Drunk Housewives of True Crime. First of all, we have Al, aka Elter Skelter. She runs a set of escape rooms based on true crime sites and is in a deep dive currently about the Son of Sam murders of the 70s. First of all, love the hair color.
Oh, thank you so much. I just dyed it in the blood of my enemies. That's how I get this nice.
Ooh, very nice. What are you drinking tonight, Al?
Oh, hey, did you open my bottle? I couldn't find a corkscrew. We're still looking for one, but I got like this cool mead. My best friend Sarah got it for me. I had something cool, but you can't open it because it has a cork thing. But I'm smoking like always, so.
Nice. Very good. My sister and brother-in-law, who Kona knows as well, they used to go to Renaissance fairs very frequently and partake of mead. So I've actually never had it.
In your life?
In my life.
That's crazy.
I know.
What the hell, Ellen?
Yeah, we have a bunch
of...
we have several meaderies around here.
It's a thing, a meadery?
So yeah, it's very much becoming a thing.
Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kona.
Hello.
Is host of the True Crime podcast, And Then They Were Gone, which spotlights the stories of people who went missing and have never usually been found. Kona, what's in your glass tonight?
I have a ranch water going a little like with a summer drink in the middle of winter.
What? Wait, what's a ranch water?
Ranch water. So it's tequila mineral water. Usually it's supposed to be Topo Chico, but our store is out of that. So it's another brand. I forget what. And it's supposed to be muddled lime. But again, I just use lime juice because, we're making a little fast version.
Oh, okay. So it's like a ranch house. I was thinking like, does she have ranch dressing in her water? Like, what are they? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes me feel better.
Like working on the ranch because it's like, after you work all day, you cool down, that kind of a thing. But it's kind of like a margarita, but like without sugar. Like it's not sweet.
Nice.
Oh.
Well, I am H. Allegra Lansing, a.k.a. Allie, author of The Manson Family, More to the Story, and host of this YouTube channel. Tonight, I'm just drinking an almond milk mocha, but I'm going to be adding, starting with A, and maybe later more, splashes of the Nutty Monk.
Oh, nice.
Frangelico. Because truly, what goes together better than true and crime than chocolate and hazelnut?
I would agree.
I love chocolate and hazelnut.
My husband hates it. He doesn't like Nutella. Like, he doesn't like any of that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Are we sure we want to be married to him?
I mean,
Exactly. So, and by the way, Elle and Kona both have YouTube channels. They will be linked in the notes here, so please follow each of them and be sure to subscribe to this playlist so that you can watch every episode of The Drunk Housewives of True Crime, which will air roughly every other week or so. So I'm going to kick things off with the ultimate Christmas horror story. Waking up the day after Christmas to a disappearance and then a dead body. And since I covered a dead kid also in the last episode, I'm not going to discuss the details of the murder of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey on December 26th in Boulder on 1996, I think it was. Just what's going on today with the case. So this is just all around a fuck up of a story and has been since day one. So we know the general basic of the story. Parents called 911 on the morning after Christmas to say they can't find their daughter, but they've discovered a ransom note in the house demanding money for her return. Said monies just happened to be the same 6-figure amount that Mr. Ramsey got in his holiday bonus at his high-priced IT job. The language in the note appears to be culled from a screenplay of a film that the Ramseys just happened to have in their VHS collection. Handwriting analysis cannot rule out mom. And there's a weird little kid, a little boy, who's mad that someone ate his late night treat, but apparently not real disturbed that his sister's missing. You know? Law enforcement shows up.
To be fair, I've got 3 boys and that tracks. I mean,
exactly.
I
don't care about them. I care about my fucking cottage cheese and pineapple.
Yeah.
So law enforcement shows up shortly thereafter. The father stumbles upon the body of his daughter, JonBenet, down in their wine cellar. Now, nearly 30 years later, this is a cold fucking case. Or is it? Because Boulder investigators have changed hands numerous times and the current team ain't talking. Now, a few years ago, creepy kid brother, now an adult, went on ye old Dr. Phil show to talk about how normal and nice and not murdery apparently he was. But he was wearing this perpetual grin on his face that still gives me nightmares. But sure, he's innocent as he claims. But really, I just want to talk about the newest potential suspects. There's a couple. So the first is there was another girl she was a little bit older. I think she was 10, but she was stalked and raped by a home intruder 6 months before JonBenet was murdered, very close by. And the 2 girls attended the same dance school. So the father of that girl believes his daughter was targeted because of that studio. And in his own independent research found that there were a number of home invasions and sexual assaults in the Boulder area in the months between the 2 events. And John Ramsey, the father of JonBenet, also thinks there is a link between the 2 cases. Second, and slightly newer development, is that there is a convicted sex predator who worked as a photographer on the child pageant circuit and who took photos of JonBenet a few months before her murder. So Randall DeWitt Simons is currently serving time in prison on pornography and encouraging sexual abuse charges. He apparently sold his photos of JonBenet in the years just after her death for about $7,500.
Oh, God, is that all? I would have assumed that he would have gotten a lot more.
This is the 90s. People were broke then.
That's like, I mean, I guess the early 2000s was more like the height of tabloid culture, but like,
that's true.
I feel like he would have gotten more.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But there's a seamstress who dated Simons that asked police to look into him when she found a picture that he took of her own daughter holding a rope that looked suspiciously like the one used in JonBenet's garroting. She claims, the seamstress, that Simons admitted to her that he has no alibi for the night and morning that JonBenet was taken from her home and later found deceased there. Now, John Ramsey wants his daughter's cold case taken out entirely of the hands of the Boulder PD, and he has recently appealed to the governor of Colorado to instruct them to release the DNA evidence that they've been holding on to for 26 years to a credible lab. So there is DNA evidence that has not been tested. There's some that has been.
Right.
But they are still holding on to some, apparently.
Because I remember, didn't they get touch DNA off of her underwear that they couldn't tie to anyone?
Yes. A third party, basically, it's a third party in that it's not a family member and it's not law enforcement. It could be somebody that laundered her clothes.
Worked at the factory that made the did whatever. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, with it being touch DNA, that's tough. Somebody who,
exactly. I'm just kind of frankly of the opinion that I think that the killing of JonBenet Ramsey, much like the murder of Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia in 1947, will never, ever, ever be solved. There will continue to be suspects and new leads and new articles, but I don't know, something in me tells me that I'll never get over how creepy the brother is, but I also don't think it'll ever be solved. I just think that, and I don't know enough about the investigation to know why. I mean, I've seen a couple different news programs and stuff about it, but I don't know enough about what did investigators do wrong in the beginning that they didn't have a suspect within the first. Hell, we have a suspect now in Idaho.
Right. Yeah, just today. That was the big breaking news, yeah.
But 26 years later, this poor kid and her family.
I have no idea. Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where I just have a hard time with the children cases. So it's never been one that I've dug into or followed particularly closely. So
me neither.
Yeah.
I don't just root him. Like I said, there was a program. I remember seeing the interview with the brother, and there was a program that came out maybe about 3 years ago that I think was on Netflix. That was kind of about the forensics of it.
Yeah.
And then there's actually a really interesting documentary that came out maybe about 4 or 5 years ago about the cast. So one of the programs about they cast for the family, including JonBenet, in Boulder. And there's a documentary on Netflix about the casting, what it was like for the people who tried out for the role of JonBenet Ramsey or the brother or the dad or the mom or the whatevers, But the forensic one was interesting because the guy who I think later was very instrumental in helping to free the West Memphis Three was one of the forensic experts brought in on that. And they were talking to him. I don't think he had the case, but he was, as an expert forensic witness being asked his opinion about stuff, I think. So LMNOP, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's funny that you have so much sympathy for Susan Atkins, but have none for this kid, Burke. You're just like, F this kid. No, this kid is so creepy. No, I'm just kidding.
I do. There were things, it was that particular program about the forensic evidence that revealed some things about him. I'd always thought there's another family member, there's a brother, had they ruled him out. I never had any knowledge about him. But when I watched the Dr. Phil show, and maybe just the trauma of losing a sister has just made him a thoroughly awkward individual.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible. So it's not that I don't have empathy for him. It's just that I almost felt like it was damage control to go on Dr. Phil and maybe he's on the spectrum, and he just wasn't going to come across as completely socialized. And that's why he seemed a little awkward and odd in that interview that he did with Dr. Phil. But it kind of seemed like somebody was saying to him, look, we got to at least those of us who know you and love you, we got to rule you out. Let's do our best to do that. And one time only do a public appearance somewhere.
Right.
And let's make it the weirdo from Texas who Dr. Phil.
Yeah. I love how he's just dove headfirst into the true crime, that's his thing.
Exactly.
Dr. Oz did it too, but I
have a combination of backfiring and fireworks going off outside my apartment right now. It's the weirdest thing. It's clearly backfiring and it's clearly fireworks at the same time. I don't know.
Party.
Exactly. It's not even officially yet New Year's. So
I know.
Okay, so let's talk about our hot criminal of the week. Who you got, Elle?
Sorry, I had my bike off because I was putting my thing up so I could use my hands to talk. All right, so, well, first of all, I got my drink. So I got
you got your meat.
Finally, yeah, it's really good actually. But our hot criminal is Christina Randall. She is let me get my note card for her here. Yes, that's her. She's a YouTuber now. She was like kind of terribly abused as a child. She'd been in 13 schools by the time she was in ninth grade, and then she dropped out in the ninth grade.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
Me too.
And her grandpa got her some savings bonds, like when she was a baby, that like matured to about $8,000. So she used that money when she was 16 and lied to a plastic surgeon and got that great boob job that you see there.
Oh my goodness.
And so then she was having like her fights. Like she was a little kind of a hood thing. She was always very scrappy and always like ready to fight. Yeah, she's always throwing hands. And like she saw these two girls on the side of the road that had been like calling her house and like being really nasty to her, like, we're gonna catch you outside. And she just caught them outside and used like this hairbrush and just like smashed this girl in the mouth with it.
How Francis Farmer of her, Jesus.
And then like she saw them later. I think it was her 18th birthday. Christina, if you watch this and I got this wrong, I'm sorry, but you be doing a lot of fighting. But so she got in the fight again with these same two girls that she beat, the one with the hairbrush, and she was at a party, and then the two girls got in their car, or like the two girls got in somebody else's car maybe and left, and then so Christina followed them in her car, and then just like rammed into them just
with her car.
Several times.
Okay.
And all her friends were outside like screaming and crying like, Christina, no, stop, oh my god. And she was like blackout drunk. Remember that part because we're going to come back to that. So she got on like a warrant for her, but this was in Florida, so she got a warrant for her arrest for that. But so she just fled. She went to New Orleans. She was working at clubs, making a lot of money. And so by the time she was 21, she comes back. And I want to say it's on her 21st birthday too. She has bad luck with birthdays. She goes out with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend gets in a fight with some girl in the like Christina drives her to like a 7-Eleven. She goes in the 7-Eleven and then she comes out fighting with a girl and the cashier. So Christina jumps out of the car and has like a Jack Daniels bottle in her hand and like smashes one of the girls, not the same two girls, but like some different girls. And the girl had her money that she was like gonna buy stuff at 7-Eleven with, I guess, and like Christina just snatched it and she was like, give me my money back. And Christina's like, take it back.
No.
Like so they get in the car and leave. And I meant to say before this, she had come back from New Orleans to Florida and turned herself in because she wanted to like be able to come back to Florida, I guess. I don't know why anybody would want to, but she turned herself in. And
family in Florida, so we're not saying anything.
Sorry. So she turned herself in, and then she got probation. She got 2 years of probation, and she made it 23 months and then got caught driving on a suspended license. So then they give her jail time, but they give her work with release. She escaped. She did. She did it.
Oh this poor girl,
not even like a week, I don't think. She said she did it, and then she escaped. So she's out, on the lam when she's smashing people with liquor bottles and stuff. So that's
oh my goodness.
okay. So her and her boyfriends, and her friend that was starting the fight at the 7-Eleven. Well, she wasn't starting it. Like they were trying to jump her, but Christina wouldn't have been involved if her friend wasn't. So
Yeah.
anyway, they go to the club, and Christina said she still had the money like crumpled up in her hand, like she hadn't even counted it yet. Before the cop, like 15 cops, like came in there, was like, everybody on the ground, whatever. So then she got 3 years. So she went and did three years of jail in Florida, and she has a lot of good stories about that.
And she's like turned her life around now.
Yes,
right?
she did. She got out of jail, right? So she got out of jail, and then remember I told you she like smashed into that car with the 2 girls? Well, one of those girls' baby was in the car.
Oh no.
Like he was fine. He didn't get hurt at all.
Okay. Still.
But Christina ends up marrying that baby's dad and is now the stepmom to that baby, whose name is Jordan, and he does like the podcast that she does with her, and they're the cutest. And her and Jeremy, that's her husband, they have like another son named Jaden now, and she's doing all kinds of good YouTube stuff, and she's doing very well, and I love her.
I've seen her show. It's been a while, but I remember she had like really wild dreadlocks, and like some months ago, maybe a year ago, she like went on camera to actually get them all cut off, basically.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Okay. How is the co-parenting arrangement? Like, what is drop off like? Like, what?
I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know, actually. I'm not really
like, you don't
really
just
sure.
like you don't just like attempt to murder somebody, marry their ex. I'm assuming. I hope at the time they weren't still together. I don't even know.
They weren't together anymore.
Holy shit. You just murder somebody and then like and just marry their like child's father, who you also almost like that is wild. Like, how do you go to the kids' school plays? Like, how do you just like show up on a Wednesday for their friggin' jazz band performance and be like, okay, hey, we're all here? Like, what the hell? That's insane.
To be fair, she didn't know that there was a baby in the car. She felt terrible about it. But listen, I am fine with that. Jordan's mama shouldn't have been talking all that shit. Like, I don't really know what their relationship is, but I love Christina and Jeremy together, and like they knew each other in high school and stuff, and like reconnected, and she seems like an amazing stepmom. Jordan loves her. So
well, the kid seems like he's pretty well balanced, and I guess we should probably all be fairly like cool with all of this too. So
yeah,
I mean, listen.
Well, Christina Randall, hot criminal of the week.
Wild.
Okay, so in our next holiday-inspired crime story, let's serve up some leftover ham and cornbread stuffing, because Kona's going to tell us about the Christmas tree lady of Fairfax County, Virginia.
Yes. So this is a local one for me. And we had heard about it it happened in 1996, coincidentally. A woman was found dead in a cemetery, which you would think seems like a normal thing, but she was on the outside of the ground. And she was found in the children's section of a cemetery in Annandale, Virginia, with a tiny Minnie Mouse backpack, a tiny little Christmas tree set up, and a CD, like a Discman, playing like a Mel Brooks comedy CD, and like in headphones. And she had those on, and then she suffocated herself and was found in the.
Wait,
I think she put a bag over her head, if I remember correctly.
How do you do that? Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. A lot of times, I mean, from what I understand, like you can take a bunch of pills and then do that in addition, but I don't know if that was the case here or not. So she had no identification on her. She was dressed in like, relatively nice clothes. She was older. She was like they guessed to be like around 60 or so. They had no idea, they couldn't find any connection between her and like any of the graves that were around. Nobody, had reported anybody missing, matching her description missing. So, it just went unsolved, and it was just this.
Did they know it was a suicide all along?
Yeah.
Or did they suspect foul play?
They did not suspect foul play.
Okay.
So they were very convinced it was a suicide because, in addition, in her pocket, she had a note that with two $50 bills, if I recall, and a note that said, basically, I'm ending my own life. Please take this money to pay for my cremation. I prefer no autopsy.
I don't think $50 pays for a cremation.
Yeah, I know. So that was interesting. So they couldn't figure it out, but she was like clean. She was, she just looked like a random lady. Oh yeah. So sorry. Here's the actual text. Deceased by own hand, prefer no autopsy. Please order cremation with funds provided. Thank you, Jane Doe.
So she signed it Jane Doe. Like, she didn't want to be identified.
She specifically did not want to be identified. So
Wow.
that's why it was such a mystery, and they couldn't find any missing people who matched up with her. So this went on for years, up until this year. And Authorm Labs, they're the lab who does a lot of the genetic genealogy testing, they got in on it. And through genetic genealogy, they were able to find a man in Virginia Beach, and who they thought might be her brother. And he's like, and they showed her. So there was a drawing.
But wait, first, was Cece Moore involved in all this? Because I love her. She's that blonde genealogist that always gets involved in.
Yeah. No,
her.
I don't think she wasn't on this one, but I know exactly who you're talking, because she's involved in the Harris County Jane Doe case, because we did that one. Yeah, but So a couple of years ago, with the help of NCMEC, police finally did like this drawing of her in hopes of identifying her. So they had this drawing and the genealogy results, took it to this man down in Virginia Beach, and he's like, it might be my sister, but I haven't seen her in 50 years. So like, she didn't look like that. I don't know what to tell you. So he's like, well, go talk to my other sister. She like saw her more recently. So they found her other sister, and she was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Now with that and further DNA testing, they did identify her as Joyce Marilyn Meyer Summers. She is from Iowa, which is why, nobody in Virginia had reported her missing, because she had absolutely no familial ties to Virginia. The relative who was in Virginia Beach, like, I don't think even lived there at the time.
Okay.
And yeah, so she's from Iowa, moved to California after college or after high school. She was the oldest of 5 kids. She originally worked for 17 magazine in Los Angeles, but then for some reason left that job and became a 2nd grade teacher at a Catholic school, despite having like no background in education. And apparently it was very, very, stressful, as you can imagine. So
that's Catholic schools for you. They'll let anybody teach.
Yeah. And so this is the 60s. Yeah, this is the 60s. She started going through some stuff. She started going to therapy. According to her sister, Chloe, she was like, well, part of the thing with therapy at the time is blame the mother, which, I mean, that is true. And so she's like, yeah, I don't know. She started talking about how our mother was terrible, how she had this terrible childhood. And she's like, my siblings and I had a great childhood. We don't really know what she's talking about. So what's interesting to me is like, she did an interview with the Washington Post, and she's like really dismissive about her sister's struggle. She's like, I don't know, it seemed great to me. And maybe it was like, maybe that it was kind of all in her head, or, a lot of times kids can be raised in the same house and have very different childhoods.
Yeah. But how many siblings does she have altogether?
5, and she was the oldest. Or 4 siblings, so 5 children.
Okay. I mean, yes, if she's the oldest, and like sometimes the oldest will bear the brunt of it, sometimes the youngest might,
right?
Like that there's like a gap between. But for none of the other children, not only to have experienced the abuse, but even to have witnessed it, I'm guessing maybe more like mental health issues.
Well, yeah, but they don't specify like what her actual accusations were, whether it was physical abuse or, emotional abuse or neglect or, whatever it was.
Sexual abuse or whatever.
Yeah. And so, so she kind of bumped around. She had like a 24-hour confrontation with her mother, at some point in the 70s, I think, and was like, "You're terrible" and everything, and then didn't speak to them for a while. And then moved to Oklahoma, to Tulsa, got married. She was married and divorced twice.
Shit, my shirt got unbuttoned.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Didn't know it was that kind of show. Got married and divorced twice. And she eventually in Tulsa was living in a trailer and had her family come and visit her. And this is in the 80s. And she was like, "I don't want to live in this trailer. You all should buy me a house." And they're like, "Well, we can't really do that." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then never spoke to any of them again. So they had no idea where she was for about 10 years. It was the early 90s where they're like, we really need to see, like, is she okay? Like, what's going on? They went back to the trailer, found it had been abandoned, but inside of a refrigerator were a couple copies of a book she had written and self-published called The Targeted Child.
Oh.
And which is about all of, what she says she experienced during her childhood.
And did any of that trigger anything for them where they're like, okay, we didn't see any of this when we were younger, but now that we read it here, we do recall this, or we do believe this? Or
not according to the article. So I don't know. But, and of course you can't, they didn't go ahead and like put it online or anything. So like, I would be very curious to read that book. But
do we have any idea how she wound up in Virginia now?
Nope.
Complete
none at
mystery.
All. Yeah, I mean, public records show that, she had been there for a little while, just bebopping around, but like there hasn't been a whole lot uncovered about how she ended up there or any of it. And nobody thinks that she had children. When she was still unidentified, there was a scar that indicated she may have had a C-section at one point. But it was also it wasn't like a typical C-section scar. So they're not sure. It could have just been from something else. So yeah, there's a lot still unknown, but yeah, this year she finally did get her name back. And
so 26 years from the time of her death to the identification, and all thanks to the miracles of modern science.
I know, genetic genealogy.
And I mean, I have said this before. I'd written about, not so much specifically about the Golden State Killer at Medium, but I had written about the fact that just how he got identified, basically, and how they were able, they could not get a subpoena or a warrant to go into his home and collect his trash. But that dude blew his nose outside of a Michael's.
Yep.
Or a Hobby Lobby, one of the two, and dropped the Kleenex in a public garbage can.
Yeah.
And threw that. And then from there, they're able to go and basically at GED match, whatever it's called. Yeah, they're able to figure out, okay, this, it looks like we have found a first cousin. And we know who that person's information is. And now we're going to map out their family tree using Ancestry and other, family tree sites and figure out who are their first cousins. We're looking for somebody that we know has a connection to law enforcement, or at least tried out for law enforcement. We're looking for a person around this age and around, whatever, all the different demographics that they think that this guy matches. And they find this guy, Joseph D'Angelo. And but I've said it multiple times. If anybody in my family is a serial killer, I will throw my information out to the wind, and whoever catches it. And if it names you, I don't care who you are. I don't care how close you are. You going down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did 23andMe last year, and I did upload my data to GEDmatch. So if I've got anybody out there, like my stuff,
are you still Irish? Are you still Irish?
Oh, it turns out I'm actually more Irish than I thought, but only because of my mom's side of the family isn't as German as they thought.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So, well, thank you so much for sharing the story of the Christmas tree lady, Joyce. What was her last name? Joyce, whatever.
Yeah, Myers was her maiden name, and then Summers. Because that was from one of her husbands.
Well, however the whole circumstance happened, she obviously was a very unhappy person.
Yeah.
It's a sad story. So,
yeah.
Okay. Before we have Elle tell us the final story in tonight's episode, ladies, what do you got working or want to plug? Elle, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm never working on anything, except housework.
You're so cute.
I have a guy I want to plug. His name is Thomas B, and he is my internet friend. Well, like only on YouTube. Like we're not friends on like social media or anything. But he always leaves the nicest, like sweetest comments.
You're talking about Art and Lit. You're talking about the guy that has the channel Art and Lit Matters, right?
Yes, I am. Like the Silver Fox
awesome.
guy with the melodic voice. Yeah, I love him. Oh my god. I don't know if he has a wife. If he does, I'm sorry.
I feel like I grow brain cells every time I watch one of his videos. He's so
I love to listen to it in public without headphones so people think I'm smarter than I actually am. Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And like
that guy's awesome.
You can listen to him falling asleep. And I got I love his one he did about murder ballads. I learned so much new stuff. He does the I Don't Like Mondays from Brenda Spencer. I'm not from like she didn't sing it, but you know the shooter that didn't like Monday. Yeah,
the
Boomtown Rats. Yeah. That's it.
Who I swear to God, Cara Delevingne or whatever her name is, looks just like that girl.
I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like his ones on art and mythology and poetry. Those are the ones that he does that I like the most, basically. Yeah. He and I collaborated on several things.
Oh, cool. He just keeps getting better, like at editing. Like he always has like great, music, and he always like throws little jokes in there too. Like I love that if you're paying attention, it's also hilarious and informative. So. That's my
very good plug. I love that guy. That's awesome. Kona, what do you have working or want to celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, I am just trying to get to still end this season. It's not happening. But so I would like to plug people who can actually function. So I'm part of a podcast network, an indie podcast network called the Dark Cast Network. And yeah, so I think we have like 13 shows there now, and it's all sorts of different stuff with true crime, paranormal stuff, cryptids. There's even like a fiction podcast on there. Like there's all sorts of just really neat stuff. And we have our first international podcast. You just joined. Speaking of melodic voices, it's a podcast called Scottish Murders, and so it's just like best.
I'm in.
Right? Just straight up Scottish, it's so great.
That's all you had to say, fam.
Exactly. Like talk about a title that just gives you what you want.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's awesome. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So I definitely recommend those to anybody who's
make sure you send me the link to that so that I can share that.
Okay.
That way everybody gets a little piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Elle, that leaves it up to you. Will you please tell us the story of poor Zazelle Preston? Preston.
Yes, I will tell you the story of Zazelle Preston and her husband, William Wallace. Not Braveheart.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. I was like, oh, William Wallace, what's up? No, it's not. It's not. No, it's just some jerk. So it's Christmas morning, and it's 2011 in Orange County, California. And Zazelle and William are in their house, and they have a new baby. He is only 7 weeks old. And they have 2 daughters, a 3-year-old and 8-year-old. So they have the girls come down for Christmas, the baby's there, doing what babies do. And the girls come down for Christmas, and they start opening their presents, and they're like, really excited. And they're like, Mom, look what we got. Look what we got. And Mom's not paying any attention to them. And she's wearing sunglasses in the house, which is kind of weird to them. But like their dad looks kind of bad. So they're just like, whatever, and keep opening their presents. So then, after a while, they're like, Mom, why you won't even look at our new presents? And so the older one that's 8, she's like, Dad, what's wrong with Mom? And he gets mad and he's like, your mom got drunk and now she's ruining Christmas. So the kids are like, wow, okay, well, we're just gonna go back to playing with our toys. This is a great Christmas. We're gonna remember this forever. And so then he goes like into the bathroom and calls the ambulance and says that he needs assistance because the night before he had beaten Giselle to death and then propped her up weekend at Bernie style to open Christmas presents with her family.
Oh my God.
He just got sentenced to 15 years to life. So that's
just
that's
now?
Just now? So it
From a 2011 crime?
No, not just, but like not
Jesus.
just. It happened when he was 39 and he was 29. So it took like 10 years, I feel like. He was like 20.
It would have just been like
29 when it happened. Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah.
How did that take so long? That's crazy.
So there was
I
like
don't
a history
know.
of domestic violence between the two of
Yeah,
them, right?
he had a whole history of domestic violence. You know, the 8-year-old who's 18 now testified against him. So yeah, it would have been recently.
Terrifying. That's awful.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, like you would think beating your kid's mother to death would be like the worst possible thing you could do to them. But then you just take it
right,
just right up to the next level.
I bet they're so suspicious anytime anyone is wearing sunglasses. Like,
yeah.
I bet that triggers those poor kids. I hope they like could get into some good therapy because
I kind of hope he
can't
gets,
even imagine.
I don't know, Dahmerized with the chair over there in prison.
Well, it's California, so maybe Tex Watson will talk his freaking ear off about Jesus. You know.
Oh my God, that's just heartbreaking, though. That poor woman. You know,
I know.
the only thing I'd really read about her, there was the comment about, look, your mom ruined Christmas. She got drunk, you know.
Ugh.
And then it was that she apparently had spent time in a domestic violence shelter before like reuniting with him, I guess it was, or something. And I think she was actually thinking about leaving him at the time.
And she was studying to be a domestic violence counselor.
Ay. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty heartbreaking, though. Poor Giselle. Hopefully her kids, you know, are doing okay and knowing that justice was served. And
However delayed.
No kidding. Oh my gosh. Well, ladies, I guess that wraps episode 2 of The Drunk Housewives of True Crime. Kona and Al, it's been a hoot whining and criming with you both. Let's meet back here in about 2 weeks, shall we?
Sounds good.
Until next time, everyone, set up trouble and stay lit.